Hi there guys, I hope you have had a good day. So December 12th, AJ versus Kubrat Pulev. Obviously they are both in training camp and preparing for this fight. Anthony Joshua is ramping up his training as he prepares for Kubrat Pulev. Now, Anthony Joshua is looking a lot bigger than he was going in against Andy Ruiz Jr. And I think that tells us that he's looking to be a bit more physically imposing. Maybe work on a few more power shots and look to stop Kubrat Pulev. I think that in the fight with Andy Ruiz Jr., the game plan was never to stop Andy Ruiz. It was to jab, hurt him continuously, but never to stop him. And against Kubrat Pulev, I think the game plan is to stop him. I mean, he doesn't want to go in there and have a boxing match with Kubrat Pulev because that does give Pulev a bit more of an opportunity because he's a good boxer and a very awkward boxer as well. So Anthony Joshua doesn't want to have a chess match with him. He wants to go in there looking for power punches, not loading up though. Obviously, he doesn't want to be loading up with his punches. He wants to let the punches flow and throw the punches loose to make sure that he's not expending too much energy and loading up and missing wildly with punches. Obviously, Anthony Joshua doesn't often do that. I mean, I've seen him do that once, maybe twice. Definitely against Andy Ruiz Jr. and against maybe Vladimir Klitschko, but that was down to inexperience. I think that he's learnt from his mistakes and will be a more polished fighter on December 12th against Kubrat Pulev. Now, I think what will be interesting is what Kubrat Pulev will come out and do. What game plan will he have? Will he try and box Anthony Joshua behind a jab, or will he look to trade up at times when he can? Well, Kubrat Pulev cannot fight with Anthony Joshua on the inside. AJ is the clear inside fighter in this fight. The mid-range, Kubrat Pulev can work a little bit better at that, but ultimately I think the long range is better suited for Kubrat Pulev. I think that Anthony Joshua will look to sit on the chest of Pulev and get close to him, and I think that it will be Anthony Joshua controlling the distance and tempo of this fight with his positioning and his jab. I think Anthony Joshua will have a double jab, and that will offset Kubrat Pulev because Pulev has a really awkward style, bouncy, amateurish, and he paws with that jab, and ultimately it can be very hard to read what is coming from Pulev. And the thing about Kubrat Pulev is he's always in a good position to land his punches, whether he's going backwards or coming forwards or coming around to the side. He's always in a position to land counter shots or time the punches of his opponent, which Anthony Joshua will undoubtedly have to be wary of going into this fight with Pulev. So I think that Anthony Joshua will have a double jab. Whether he catches Pulev with it or not is not necessarily the intention of that double jab. I think the intention of it will be to offset and to force Kubrat Pulev to make a move, to give up his positioning and make him believe that punches are coming. So Anthony Joshua will need to be busy in the early stages of the fight to establish his jab over Kubrat Pulev's, because Pulev, as I said, will look to box Anthony Joshua, and when he can, he will look to land sharp counter shots because, as I said, Pulev is always positioned perfectly to land punches, whether he's going backwards or coming forwards. He does like to pressure. He doesn't necessarily like to box off the back foot. He likes to stand there in the center of the ring with his opponent. But that's not to say that he's an inside fighter. That's to say that he likes to stand there and he likes to make sure the distance that he's fighting at is on his terms. Even against Vladimir Klitschko, the fight that he lost, he was still dictating the distance of that fight. And what he was doing was standing there in the center of the ring because if he goes back, Klitschko is going to rush him, either stop him or the ref is going to stop it. So what he needs to do is stand there in the center, trade up with Klitschko, catch shots where he can and throw shots where he can to show the referee that he's okay, he can continue because he's still throwing punches back. So a referee will very rarely stop a fight when something like that is happening because, I mean, if he's getting beaten completely, then the ref will stop it. But if he stood there in the center of the ring, yes, he's being hurt, but he's still there throwing punches and potentially harmful punches to Vladimir Klitschko. So he was still in there with a chance of winning the fight until the 5th round where he did completely get laid out. I mean, he kept getting hit with that left hand and he didn't do anything to defend against it. He didn't seem to know how, but he still was controlling the distance that they were fighting at because he could have gone back and allowed Klitschko to follow him to the ropes, but he didn't do that. He stood in the center of the ring and tried to use angles, but ultimately he was too badly hurt to come around to the side, which was probably what he needed to do to avoid that left hook, which he got peppered with all night from Klitschko. So I think that given that, he will look to control the distance and tempo this fight is fought at with Anthony Joshua because Anthony Joshua is about probably 9 or 10 years younger than Kubrat Pulev, and that means two different things. That means that there is maybe more experience for Kubrat Pulev, but not at this level because Anthony Joshua has had more fights at world level than Kubrat Pulev, many more. So Anthony Joshua has the experience at world level. So the age gap won't mean more experience for Kubrat Pulev. What it also means is Anthony Joshua has youth on his side. So Kubrat Pulev will need to fight in stages. He cannot just go in there with the younger man and see who tires out first, because it will be Kubrat Pulev. The reason why Kubrat Pulev rarely gets tired in fights is because he fights at his own tempo, his own distance, and he makes sure that he fights in stages. You never see him going hell for leather, looking to land big punches and going crazy or anything like that. He's very educated. So he lands punches when he can, he picks his punches, and he doesn't waste any punches at all. So Pulev fights in stints, and that is the reason why he doesn't get tired. And I think that considering that, Anthony Joshua will look to break Kubrat Pulev down bit by bit and start working to the body, because as I said, with that kind of style, Kubrat Pulev is not going to get tired. So Anthony Joshua needs to drag him to a place he doesn't want to go. And I think that working down to the body will really slow up Kubrat Pulev, and he will not be expecting it, because Pulev is someone who doesn't necessarily expect his opponents to throw body shots, because when he does go in there with his opponents, he often lifts his gloves way too high, and his elbows too, exposing the midsection, and heavyweights don't often go to the body. Anthony Joshua is one heavyweight who does, alongside Andy Ruiz, Dillian Whyte, and Tyson Fury does at times, but ultimately Anthony Joshua is a fearsome body puncher, and he will look to do that and expose that of Kubrat Pulev, break him down bit by bit. Then Pulev will start to feel the pace of the fight. So I think that Anthony Joshua doesn't need to go in there looking to load up with his punches. He needs to be educated and break Kubrat Pulev down, which he is well capable of doing. And I think that Pulev will definitely start feeling the pace in the mid rounds. I think AJ will get a stoppage between round 5 and round 9. And in addition to that, I think Anthony Joshua will look to come in around 17 stone or 17.5 stone. He won't be too heavy, and he definitely won't be as light as he was going in there with Andy Ruiz, because the Ruiz fight was sticking to boxing on the outside, on the back foot, making sure that Andy Ruiz cannot get on the inside. Whereas against Kubrat Pulev, I think Anthony Joshua will be looking to get on the inside, because he is the inside fighter in this fight. Different horses for different courses. I think that is the case for Anthony Joshua. Two completely different opponents. Obviously Andy Ruiz, an inside fighter, and Kubrat Pulev, a long range boxer throwing power shots. So obviously Anthony Joshua got the game plan completely right for Andy Ruiz, but that same game plan won't work against Kubrat Pulev. He needs a different one. That is why he will come in a little bit heavier, looking to load up with a few punches and work on the inside as well. But ultimately I think he will break Kubrat Pulev down bit by bit and get back to knocking out his opponents. Guys, anyway, what are your thoughts on this? Make sure you leave your thoughts in the comments below, leave a thumbs up and subscribe if you are new. Thanks guys.